Hello and welcome to episode 38 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. Over the last 3 episodes, Marissa from Chicago and I shared our top 50 things at Walt Disney World in honor of the resort's 50th anniversary on October 1st. That gave us a lot of time to talk about the things that have already existed in the parks and elsewhere on property, but today, Sarah from Seattle and I are going to look at new things that either are here for the 50th or are still to come during the 18-month-long celebration of the milestone. Since this is an 18-month celebration, you can still experience these things by putting down a $200 deposit to lock in your next WDW vacation. As you know, I am an authorized Disney vacation planner with Ear to There Travel, and my services are always 100% free to you. Shoot me an email at rick@eartotheretravel.com, rick@eartotheretravel.com, or call 727-507-3123, 727-507-3123, and we can get you to the magic. After we talk some Walt Disney World, my wife Courtney will be on the show for a dining review for the French Market quick service location in New Orleans Square in Disneyland. I know how many of you love to hear about the theme park food, and we love trying it out with the excuse that we're doing it for you. Without further ado, let's get started by welcoming Sarah from Seattle. Thanks for joining us, Sarah.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be back.
And we are super excited because we're continuing the Walt Disney World 50th anniversary celebrations. They're going to be doing it at Walt Disney World for 18 months. The official anniversary was earlier this month on October 1st. And because of the 50th, there are a lot of new things or temporary things that have come to Walt Disney World. There are some things that are still coming to Walt Disney World. And there are some things that have just very, very recently started. And we're going to talk about all of those. I've been a few times to Walt Disney World since the 50th. Sarah has not. She's still looking forward to all of these things. So we're going to talk about what we're looking forward to out of the things to come through the 50th anniversary. We're also going to talk about those things that are already here and just have a great conversation, as we always do when Sarah's on the show.
Yes, always.
So we're just going to get the first thing out of the way right now. It's going to be a little more of a dry part of the conversation, but we have to do it. Genie, Genie Plus, and Lightning Lane. This episode is hitting the internet on October 21st, which means 2 days after Lightning Lane officially started and Genie Plus. However, in the interest of full disclosure, we recorded it before they launched these things. However, we know enough of the details to talk about it, and I don't think you can really judge something like this on the first 2 days of operation. Dating back to the opening of Disneyland in 1955, Disney always has trouble with things. The first day they reopen. We all heard about the fistfights in the Emporium on the day of the 50th anniversary. Sometimes the first day doesn't go great. We don't even want to judge these things on that. So we're going to talk about it more intellectually right now. And then once I've had the chance to experience it for myself a few times, then we will have another episode where we talk about Genie, Genie Plus, and Lightning Lane in more detail. But for all intents and purposes, there are 3 different levels to this new program that is going to serve almost like my Disney experience used to serve for you in the past. There is an option where you do not have to pay. It does not cost you anything. This is Basic Genie. This is where you're going to be managing your reservations for the parks. It's also where you're going to be managing your reservations for restaurants. It's where you're going to be looking for wait times at different rides. There are even features, and it'll be interesting to see how these work in the upcoming weeks, where maybe you want to know when Haunted Mansion is going to have a short wait. You walk up to Haunted Mansion, you see it's 55 minutes, and you're like, well, I don't want to wait 55 minutes. I want to know when the wait gets down to a manageable level. So you'll type in Genie, I want to know when Haunted Mansion is a 20-minute wait. And if you're in the area when it hits 20 minutes, it will notify you. I have it on good authority that it will not do that if you put 20 minutes for Haunted Mansion and you're in Tomorrowland. And that's important because what they don't want is to trigger everybody in the park when Haunted Mansion gets a low wait time, and then Haunted Mansion doesn't have a low wait time anymore. So they just tell you when you can immediately take advantage of this feature. I think the non-paid version is going to be the biggest wait and see out of this, where we're really not going to know how it's going to look in practice. But Sarah, just hearing some of these details about it, what are your thoughts? Are you thinking this is something that you're really going to utilize the next time you're at Walt Disney World? Or do you think you're probably just going to leave the phone in your pocket and do it a little more off the cuff?
So for basic Genie, I'm saying I'd probably just go more off the cuff. I don't want when I'm there to be like looking at my phone all the time thinking, okay, I'm going to see, I'm going to wait, and not be enjoying other things that are happening because I don't get to go as frequently. And at the same time, I don't want to be part of a huge stampede of people that are like 20 minutes for the Haunted Mansion. Everybody get over there now. Cause we don't know how it's going to happen. Right. So I don't want to be elbowing some poor 10-year-old kid and his family to get on the Haunted Mansion when I could just occasionally check and be like, oh, the wait time looks like this or it looks like this. I'd rather just go with the flow, I guess.
Although I have been in the theme parks with Sarah, and she will elbow a 10-year-old kid if it's necessary for her
Only
to get a low wait time.
only if necessary.
Obviously, we are just kidding. So
Yeah.
please don't write letters or anything or have negative comments. So my initial thoughts, and I do think the first couple days here, we're not going to be able to tell because most of the people who are going to be doing it are people who are really keyed in to what's going on at Walt Disney World. I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of vlogs over the next few days where the vloggers try out all these features. My concern is how it's going to affect the family who shows up once every couple of years, or maybe this is their once in a lifetime trip to Walt Disney World. Something like Genie takes a while to get in the hang of it. And by the time they learn it, I'm afraid it'll be Friday of their trip and they're leaving the next day. That may not happen. They may be able to explain it to people. Obviously, your travel agent, wink, wink, nod, nod, can help run you through it. Rick at eartotheirtravel.com. Rick at eartotheirtravel.com. But I am just worried about that because sometimes we study as people who are really into the parks. We sit around and read articles about it. We watch vlogs. We experience the things for ourselves. We get excited for the first time we get to use Genie or Genie Plus or Lightning Lane at the theme parks. So we want to learn these things. But I will tell you an honest story about the last time I was in Disney's Hollywood Studios. And I was walking on Sunset Boulevard and I saw a family and the mother looked at the kids and said, you know what? I think I want to do that new Star Wars ride now. And it's fine now because Rise of the Resistance has a standby queue now. But I was just thinking, if she would have said that a month ago, a month and a half ago, she wouldn't have been able to ride it. It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And she's just like, I want to ride that Star Wars ride now. We forget how much people don't know when they don't pay that much attention to it. We pay a lot of attention to it. That's the only thing that worries me about basic Genie.
Yeah, I agree.
Now we're going to get to the controversial aspect of all of this, and that is Genie Plus. Genie Plus is $15 per day. Now, unlike, for example, the dining plan, with the dining plan, if you got it for one day of your trip, you had to get it for every day of your trip. That is not the case with Genie Plus. You can just get it for one day or 2 days or something like that. Genie Plus is $15 per person per day, And this allows you to essentially make fast passes for a particular time. It will give you available times, and you have to decide if you want that next available time for that ride. Just your 100% initial reaction, Sarah. What are you thinking about Genie Plus?
I know a lot of people that follow me on Twitter, you'll know I am very much for Genie Plus, because of the situation that we are in with my family. And we don't get to go frequently, like I said before, and that you all know. But also, I have a small child who, by the time we go, will finally be old enough to go on these rides and tall enough to go on these rides. But he also is autistic. So it's going to be hard to wait potentially an hour or two for a ride for him to stand forever. So I am more than happy to pay $15 per person per day, depending on how many days we want, so he can get to enjoy that ride and not have to be stressed out standing in that line.
Very quickly, that brings me to another aspect of this that I am just going to mention briefly, and we will move forward. And that is that now the DAS passes, the disability access passes, which Sarah might be able to get for her child.
Possibly.
You can now make those in the app ahead of time before you get there. Disney is definitely trying to cut down on the people who abuse that system, but while they are cutting down on people who abuse the system, they are also trying to make it easier for the people who need it. So I did just want to state that, and we might have a complete and total episode about DAS passes in the future, because Marissa from Chicago, who's on the show periodically, she needs a disability access pass. I know a lot of other people who have used these, and it might be a good topic because for some people, they just can't wait in lines.
Yeah.
Now, if you're just a spoiled person who doesn't want to wait in line and you pay the $15 for Genie Plus, there are select rides and experiences at all 4 parks. You will have access to fast passes for those rides. I can definitely see Sarah's point. For her, I think it's 100% worth it to take advantage of this. What's another $15 a day when you're paying Disney prices? It really isn't going to make the biggest difference in your trip. We talk about things like price versus value. We talk about them a lot. Sometimes you pay more to get enough more that it's worth it. And sometimes you pay a tiny amount and it's not worth it. Price versus value. I could really see spending the money on Genie Plus and Lightning Lane and then only having to go one day to Hollywood Studios instead of having to buy 2 tickets to go to Hollywood Studios. And right there, you have actually made money by spending money, because you were able to take a day that you would just be spending in line waiting for rides, and you were able to combine that with the other day you were going to be there and turn it into one day. These are the kind of things that go through a travel agent's mind in the middle of the night. How can you make these things worth it where you're actually saving money by spending money? But yeah, we're dealing with amounts of money where $15 might just be okay for you. It might not be that big of a deal. However, each theme park has 2 major attractions that are not covered by Genie Plus, and these are the very, very dreaded pay per ride lightning lanes. Definitely the most controversial aspect of this entire thing. What strikes me as the weirdest about this is they picked 2 rides from every park. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with the 2 rides they picked, as if those are the ones that need this as much. For example, Expedition Everest in Disney's Animal Kingdom is one of these Lightning Lane passes. You might have to pay, I think the average is going to be about $7 to skip the line for Expedition Everest. With the exception of holidays, I've never had Expedition Everest be a wait where I would have felt the need to pay more money to jump to the front of the line. It's never that long. It's fairly a quick loading ride. Now, the other one at Animal Kingdom is Flight of Passage. And there were definitely days where I would just throw down $15 and say, please just put me on Flight of Passage so I don't have to deal with all this stuff. What are your thoughts on how likely you think you and your family would be to pay for an individual ride experience?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this because like Hollywood Studios, they have Rise of the Resistance and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, which I've done Rise of the Resistance, but nobody else in my family has. And I know how awesome that ride is. So I think at least once, so we could get on it and know we're not gonna have to wait forever, I would pay that. And then ultimately, if we all agreed, okay, it's that good, we have to ride it again and we don't want to wait forever, that we'd make the decision then. But to be honest, I think for a lot of the really big rides we haven't ridden yet, that I would definitely pay at least one time to make sure that we got to ride that without having to wait forever.
Rise of the Resistance is the obvious choice for where this could potentially be worth it for you.
Yes.
Going from the boarding group system to this system is going to make it easier for people who are just willing to spend that money. Now, it's likely going to be about $15 per person to do this. But this is another important aspect to bring up about these three options, Genie, Genie Plus, and Lightning Lane. You can pay $15 to ride Rise of the Resistance and skip the queue without having to have Genie Plus for the day. So you don't have to pay the $15 for Genie Plus and then pay another $15 to ride Rise of the Resistance. If you decided your Hollywood Studios day, you were just going to take that $15 that you had budgeted for skipping queues and use it for Rise, you could do that and it could fit into your budget a little more. Like I said, once we've used these things for a while, I will talk more in depth about them and different strategies that I think would work for your vacation. Right now, we just want to go over the basics. What surprises me at Hollywood Studios is that they made the two Lightning Lane rides. Rise of the Resistance, no surprise there, and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I would have almost sworn on a Bible that they would have made the other one Slinky Dog Dash, because that has such huge lines and it's outside. I think they missed the boat on that one, because there have been times that I absolutely would have dropped down $10 to get on Slinky Dog Dash without having to wait in that line in the hottest part of all Walt Disney World.
That's fair. I haven't ridden it yet, but I'm pretty sure that once I get there, because I remember walking through certain areas and things like that, like Dino Land USA. It's like no shade ever, really, but no, that actually makes a lot of sense that a ride like that. Because is it a faster loading ride as well, or do they only run one car at a time?
No, it is a very fast loading ride. That's a good question. They load you about 30 seconds it takes. They are sending a new car every 30 seconds. There are times, because I like to get video for the YouTube channel and social media and everything, that I will just take video of the cars rolling through Slinky Dog Dash, because there's a bridge that goes over the launch section.
Oh, okay.
You go through the beginning and then you stop, and then it pulls you back and launches you a second time.
Oh, fun. Okay.
When it is operating at peak operation, when people are getting on and they don't have to hold for disabilities or things like that. And listen, we're always happy when they do that kind of stuff. I'm not saying
totally.
anything. But when they are operating it smoothly, a car will hit that every 30 seconds like clockwork. And I can follow along because I'm videotaping and I can see the clock on my camera. It's really, really cool. I think they usually have 3 cars going, because they have the one that's actually moving, the one they are loading, and then there's one waiting to be loaded, so that they can keep getting people on in this conveyor belt Lucy in the Chocolate Factory kind of way.
Okay.
So now we've talked about that thing. We got it out of the way. We are now going to move on to more of the fun stuff with the 50th anniversary. One of my favorite things that they have done is these gold statues.
Yes.
50 character gold statues throughout all 4 Walt Disney World theme parks. They are so darn photogenic. Everybody has their favorite characters and things like that. It is fun to walk around and find these. It's another excuse, for example, to hang around Main Street USA. I love the excuses to hang around Main Street USA and go around and see these statues. How are you enjoying them as somebody who doesn't get to be in the parks, but obviously is seeing them all over social media? Because, like I said, they're photogenic and people love to post pictures of them.
Oh yeah, totally. I love seeing the pictures of them. I have spent time looking at them because people don't always say what park they're in, like trying to figure out, what park are we in. The one that I love that I have seen literally 100 times more than anyone else is Stitch on the purple wall. And that one just kills me. I think that one's super cute, but I love it. I want to know if anybody's found all 50. I'm assuming somebody has at this point, but they're so fun to look at and try and figure out where they are for someone like me who's not there. And yeah, keep posting them. I love them.
I can assure you that there are people who have found all 50 because you're talking with one of them.
You found all 50?
I have found all 50 of them, and I have pictures of them on my phone, and I'm just spreading them out. I like to spread out the content. I don't like to waste it all on one day. This is an 18-month celebration, so maybe you don't get Frozone this weekend, okay? Maybe you have to wait for Edna Mode.
Which one's your favorite?
That is an excellent question. I think the one that is the most well done is Joe from the movie Soul.
Oh, okay.
He's playing the piano in the statue, but you can see the piano's like curving because it's trying to indicate that he's like in the zone while he's playing the piano. It's really well done from an artistic standpoint. But then there are some of those iconic characters like, I love Chip and Dale.
Yes, yeah.
Dale is better than Chip. But anyway, the Chip and Dale statue is phenomenal. Like, they did it so well. You can see the emotions in their face for some reason. It's really, really done well. Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, that's another really good one. Of course, we love Star Wars, so R2-D2 and BB-8, those are some of my favorites. I really love Edna Mode. That's another one that I enjoy a whole lot. One of the underrated aspects of Walt Disney World and Disneyland, and to some extent even Universal, is how beautiful these parks are when you're inside them. We can focus so much on the things to do, but there's other things besides that. There's just sitting around and seeing Bambi and Thumper in front of the Tree of Life at Animal Kingdom. Like, that's just a cool view, and if you don't take in those things, you're not fully enjoying the parks.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I want to see them in person. My family was at Disneyland for their 50th, but literally everything was just kind of painted gold. I mean, they had some cool stuff, but having statues like that would have been awesome.
And I think those statues have basically been universally loved, so we went with something not controversial after something controversial. But now we are going to move back into the controversy and talk about nighttime shows.
Oh, man.
I have specifically not watched Enchantment at Magic Kingdom yet because I want to experience that one in person the first time I do it. And I don't stay that late at the parks right now. So I haven't seen Enchantment in person, and I'm not going to judge it until I have seen it. However, Enchantment has replaced Happily Ever After, and that is very controversial. What did you think, first of all, when you heard that?
I was really surprised with how loved Happily Ever After is by everyone, not just people who go frequently, but by people who are just going for the first time. I mean, it's been around, it feels like forever, but it's, to me, what I equate it to is when they got rid of the Main Street Electrical Parade at Disneyland. It was so loved, and then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, but we're done with it. Sorry, guys. And so I'm really surprised that they did that. I haven't watched any of the video for the new one either, also mainly because I haven't had a lot of time, but yeah, it makes me kind of sad.
I really loved Happily Ever After, but I definitely understand that these parks aren't museums. We've all heard the Walt Disney quote. He said Disneyland was always going to be changing. Obviously, the same goes for Disney World. Actually, I think it even goes more for Disney World because of how you have to attract new people so often.
Yes.
It's more of a travel destination. I understand it, but I definitely will miss Happily Ever After. I teared up when I was standing there on Main Street, USA, knowing it was going to be the last time I saw it. I think an underrated aspect of Happily Ever After was how it really included a lot of different people. Tiana played a major, major role at the beginning of that show. And I know I have friends who are people of color, and that meant the world to them that they made Tiana such a big part of that show. Mulan plays a big part of that show. Moana. Even for me, Merida being such a big part of it when you don't see a lot of Merida, and now you have this Celtic princess who is part of this huge, huge show. And I will say the most emotional part of it for me is the Robin Williams aspect to it, because he passed away, and then you hear the "You Ain't Never Had a Friend Like Me" segment, and they have background singers singing it almost right to that point that he says, "You ain't never had a friend like me," and then they kick in with his voice. That just blew me away every time. So emotional that we lost this comic genius, and then to incorporate him into that show like that, Happily Ever After is going to be hard to top.
I agree. And like you were saying too, with all these like smaller characters, as people look at them, the ones that we don't see as frequently, I know one of the parts that I really loved in the show was when they did Out There from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, because the way they can use that projection on the castle, oh yeah. And then like you said, Merida and Tiana, because I love Tiana. It makes me so happy. And then of course the genie, and it's a bummer.
Hunchback is a great example. They also use Go the Distance from Hercules.
Right.
I don't want to say it's an underrated movie. I have a lot of opinions about Hercules that could probably take up an entire episode. I think it has some of the best characters in any Disney movie ever. And I think it has one of the worst stories of any Disney movie ever.
That's fair.
So the characters compared to the execution really don't connect. But anyway, we are going to move forward and talk about Harmonious, which is the new nighttime spectacular at Epcot. I have watched this video. I watched it the day that Disney did the test run for it and put it online. I have also witnessed it in person. This is incredibly controversial, but I'm going to go out there and say I really like it. I never had the emotional connection with Illuminations like other people had for that show. And yes, I was seeing it for a large part of my Disney going fandom, but it just never connected with me like it does to other people, and that's fine. Epcot Forever was a fun placeholder show, but it didn't blow me away. I am not a person who is opposed to intellectual property being brought into Epcot, because I know why people go to Walt Disney World. Maybe some of us who go a lot go for different reasons, but that family that's going for the first time, honestly, when you take your son to Walt Disney World for the first time, he's gonna want to see his characters, right?
Totally. I know, thinking about this, the first time I went to Epcot, there was hardly any IP anywhere. And I remember I loved it because I thought it was really cool that we got to go around the world. But at the same time, I got bored so fast because I didn't recognize anything and I was young. But I know my son, he's already thrilled knowing that, oh my gosh, Ratatouille now has a ride. And he's kind of on the fence about Frozen. He doesn't really care either way. But it's like knowing that you can incorporate the two together, IP and not IP, to please everyone is I this is why we get along so well, because I agree. I think I don't have that big of a problem with it if it's not, especially if it's not completely ruining everything.
And one of the things that I love about Harmonious is they will do the songs from these movies. Just for example, the Mulan section. They do Reflection and go in and out of singing the song in English and in Mandarin.
Oh.
almost seamlessly. It is really cool, and it's so emotional when you're there experiencing it in person. I know another thing was that live stream that they did the first day they were testing Harmonious. I don't feel like they told the camera operators or the directors exactly what was happening or what to expect to happen, because there were a lot more pyrotechnics going on in the show than it looked like there were when you watched the live stream, because they didn't know when they were going to be getting set off in the sky, so they had to quickly like tilt whenever they
Right.
thought they were going to be there, and they missed a lot of them. There are a lot of pyrotechnics with this show. The visuals are gorgeous. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the barges looking silly during the day, testing the water, shooting all over the place. When it's at night with all their light projections, it's awe-inspiring. All I'm saying is give it a chance. If you don't like it after you've seen it, fair. But if you're just judging it by the live stream online, or if you're just saying, I'm never going to love anything like I love Illuminations, just be fair to it. That's all I ask.
Yes. Yeah.
Sarah and I have so much more to discuss on this topic. She will be back next week as we continue talking about the new additions to Walt Disney World for the 50th anniversary. We'll discuss a pair of restaurants, the long-awaited Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, some more intellectual property making its way into Epcot, and a show at Disney's Animal Kingdom that has sort of turned into a bit of a meme. Right now, I want to bring my wife Courtney on the show to head all the way across the country to sunny Southern California to do a dining review from Disneyland. How are you doing today, Courtney?
Doing well, thanks.
Right now, we're going to talk about two of our absolute favorite things, food and Disneyland. We're going to do a dining review of the French Market Restaurant in New Orleans Square at Disneyland. This is a quick service dining location, so we actually had the chance to be here a couple of times. So we're just going to talk about the items we got, but some of them we got in different sittings. We're going to start with Courtney getting the signature po' boy, a Louisiana-style buttered shrimp for $13.99, lettuce, tomatoes, and citrus caper mayonnaise served on a rustic roll with seasoned chips.
This was good. This was a good option. It was a big enough but not too big portion. The shrimp were excellent. They were prepared wonderfully seasoned. The mayonnaise was a very nice touch, and just some fresh lettuce and tomato to top it off.
And just a side note on the price, we recently got some quick service mobile order food at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World, and I had a plant-based hot dog that was like $1 or $1.50 cheaper than your po' boy that had shrimp in it. So seafood tends to be a little bit expensive, but this is a really decently priced item when you consider it's inside of a theme park. You're getting seafood. It was a decent size. I definitely think that should be taken into consideration. I got the vegetable jambalaya for $12.99. It was Creole-style vegetable stew over rice. And I would say this probably was a little too expensive for what you get. It was really, really good. I loved it. I kind of threw it down really quickly. I was hungry. It tasted great, but it doesn't have any seafood in it. It doesn't have any meat in it. It was just vegetables and rice. So in this case, I think the $12.99 price tag might have been a bit much, but it was a decent size, and I do understand that things cost more, especially when they're inside Disney theme parks. I also ordered a side of mashed potatoes, and that's exactly how it's listed on the menu, a side of mashed potatoes for $2.99. Then, when we got the potatoes, we realized that they put a gravy on it, and I'm a vegetarian, so I can't have gravy. When I asked for just plain mashed potatoes, they gave them to me, and they allowed Courtney to keep the ones that had gravy on them. I thought they were very, very good. They were smooth. I am Irish, so I can't really talk about the New Orleans style food, but I can talk about the potatoes. And they were really good. I liked them. They stood on their own without the gravy, and that's the sign of a good mashed potato, especially in a theme park. You don't always get that type of quality. Courtney, how did you find the ones with the gravy?
I agree with what you're saying, and just to add on to it then, definitely not a standard theme park food. It seemed like, a restaurant quality, good quality, felt homemade, really good. And for $2.99 especially.
I am Irish, so we could spend the next 20 minutes talking about the mashed potatoes, but we're not going to do that. We're going to move on to one of the desserts we got, and that is the Haunted Mansion wedding cake for $7.99. Chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, sour cherries, cream cheese filling, finished with a splatter of cherry sauce. I am reading this directly off of their menu online. I don't know if they have changed up the wedding cake, because we definitely had vanilla cake with buttercream frosting, sour cherries, cream cheese filling, finished with a splatter of cherry sauce. So I don't know if we got something different than normal, or if they're doing something different than normal right now. Either way, it was awesome. It was great. The cherry sauce was really the star of the show, I think. 100% recommend. Even if it's chocolate cake, I can't imagine that's going to make too much of a difference in the quality of this. It's just going to be a little different flavor.
I agree again. I think I really would recommend this. It was light, refreshing, not too sweet, just perfect.
And another thing you have to experience when you're in New Orleans Square at Disneyland, you have to head up to the Mint Julep bar window and get some beignets, Mickey-shaped beignets, and a mint julep. The mint julep is non-alcoholic. They do not make an alcoholic version for sale in Disneyland Park. The New Orleans mint julep is $4.99. Courtney, you were really, really looking forward to trying one of these. Was it worth the wait?
I think so. I think you have to like mint, and you have to like lemon and lime. It hit the spot every time. I had it 2 or 3 times because that's how much I loved it. Mostly it seems like a lemonade with a hint of lime and a hint of mint. Just perfect.
And then we ordered 3 Mickey beignets that came in a bag that contained so much powdered sugar at the bottom. I couldn't believe it. It was almost comical how much powdered sugar was piled at the bottom of this bag. But what did you think of the beignets?
I enjoyed these. I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. I was expecting them to be sweeter, and they were not. So there's kind of a more bland dough, and then that's why you have the powdered sugar to balance it out perfectly, and it's a nice little dessert.
So there was a quick dining review for French Market Restaurant in New Orleans Square at Disneyland Park. Courtney, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. As always, I had a lot of fun.
This has been episode 38 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Sarah from Seattle will be back next Thursday so we can continue our conversation about newer things that have come to or are coming to Walt Disney World for the 50th anniversary. Until then, have a great week.